So I think one of the first things to say is, and one of the very exciting things for us is, we've been doing Wave in South Africa for the last 4 years. But this year with Wave 7, what we've actually done is we've gone out into other African markets as well. So we've included Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire and Kenya within the study as well. And what that's enabled us to do is actually get a much broader view of what's happening in Africa. And I think the first thing to say is, what's really interesting to me is when we start to look at this data is that all of those markets are very different. You know, when we look at not just in terms of technology penetration and internet penetration, but actually when we start to look at the motivations in those marketplaces, they're very different too. So the first thing we actually looked at is what's their kind of broad social needs. So when they're communicating in the online space and they're using social networks, what is it that they're looking for? And as I said previously, South Africa is very much about relationships, very much about building relationships with people around them. That's a key need and one that differentiates them from the other markets. When we look at Kenya and Nigeria, they're very much progression markets. So for them, it's about making contacts for work, progressing in their career. One of the things they want is to use social media in a way that actually helps them progress in their lives. Whereas when we look at the Cote d'Ivoire, what you see is it's very much a learning market. So in Cote d'Ivoire, what they're looking for is information and learning so that actually they can educate themselves and actually learn more about the world around them. And it's really interesting when you start to look at these 4 markets and then start to see actually what other countries around the world are they compared to. And then you start to learn an awful lot. So for example, Cote d'Ivoire is very similar to a country like China, where China has, doesn't have full access to information. So actually, it's very much a learning market and they're using social media to learn. So that's very interesting. And then when we look in Nigeria, actually in terms of their social needs, they're more like Asian markets. They're more like Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, those fast growing, kind of economies that are really ambitious and really want to drive forward. And so it's really interesting not just to understand their needs, but then you can kind of look at those countries in context of other markets around the world and actually see those kind of similarities as well. But the other thing we're able to do within the study, and this is really I think what the study is all about, is not just understand the social needs of consumers, but then understand what the relevance of that is for brands. And so one of the questions we asked within the study is, and it's actually quite a fundamental question, is what kind of relationship do you want with brands in particular categories? So what kind of relationship do you want with a tech brand? What kind of relationship do you want with a travel brand, for example? And actually that's the starting point of really understanding what consumers want, because actually their needs differ across categories. So for example, when we look at their needs in the travel category, we can see actually, and this data is available within the report, is actually when talking to brands and travel brands in Nigeria, what they want is actually it's about recognition. It's about having an opportunity to express their own opinions and experiences. So for them, it's all about sharing the experience that they have. Whereas, for example, when we look in Cote d'Ivoire, it's actually about learning. So as we talked before, it's very much a learning market. So for them, it's an opportunity to learn something new. It's not just about sharing their own experiences. For them, travel is a learning experience. And it's very different when we compare that with, say, Kenya, for example, where actually they see travel as a way to connect with other people. They see it as a way to kind of help other people as well. That's the kind of relationship that they want with those travel brands. They want travel brands to help them to connect with others. For them, travel is a way to meet people and also help other people as well. And all of those markets are very different compared with like the global view. When we just look at it from a global perspective, all people want from travel brands is actually just diversion, which is about, help to relax and escape from everyday life or just have fun and entertaining experiences. So South Africa sits very much more like the kind of global view. So for them, this idea of relaxation and escape is a very important thing. So that's a real examples to me of how you can just look at one single category and actually start to understand what it is that consumers are looking for. And those faults, I think, are very fundamental, because what we start to do is we stop thinking about just what social media platforms we should use and start to think about actually what is it that the people, our consumer wants. And if we can start to deliver on those things and start to deliver those experiences, all of a sudden we start to create a relationship with them that's much more powerful.